Hello, my friend, and welcome back here to my home at Seed and Sparrow Homestead. We're in the kitchen again today. If you are new, my name is Kelsey, and I am so glad you're here. We are on week 4 of the 3 Rivers Pantry Challenge, and for this week's installment, I am going to bring you 8 from scratch snacks made from what I have here in my home, in my pantry, in my fridge, and in my freezers. So we eat a really clean diet, and when we do snack, it's most often going to be a whole food, a fruit and veggie, meats and dairies. There are some snacks that I do purchase from the store. I try to only bring things into my home with a clean ingredient list. They're things that I can pronounce. I know what they are. There aren't any additives or dyes, preservatives, things like that. And I try to always source organic if I can. I'm not a purist by any means. You do what you can with what you have, the time that you have, the funds that you have, but I always aim for the best option within our budget. And if I have the time, I try to make things from scratch at home. There are a few snacks that we really enjoy, but I just have not been able to find a good replacement for. So I've just learned to make what I can at home. It is really simple. Most of the time doesn't require a whole lot of your time. It really just depends on what you're making. But the recipes I'm sharing today are all very simple and mostly require very little time. So they're very easy to put together. This is a great opportunity to get your kids involved in the kitchen or your grandkids. And if you are a mom of a picky eater, I am, I find more often than not when I have my kids in the kitchen and they're involved in the process of making what they're going to be eating, they feel super proud that they did it. They're more inclined to try it, and that is a step in the right direction, right? And sometimes I find that they love it. So that's awesome there. You're gonna find that these recipes are so much better for your health, and I think you'll find that they taste a lot better too. Now the first recipe we're gonna work on today is Cheez-Its. I'm gonna make a white cheddar Cheez-It. You could do a yellow cheddar. You could use a different type of cheese if you don't want that sharp flavor, but I associate that sharp flavor with Cheez-Its, so that's what I'm doing. Best thing to use would be a block of cheese and grate it yourself. It's gonna just incorporate and bake up better in this recipe rather than the pre-shredded stuff that comes with like the anti-caking, the cellulose, I think it's cellulose, all over it. So I am going to grate up 8 ounces of white cheddar cheese. Now my food processor is broken and I have not replaced it yet. I'm gonna try and do this in my blender here. I don't know if it's gonna work, but hopefully it's easier than doing it all by hand. It just goes a bit faster if you put it in a food processor. So we need 1 cup of all-purpose flour. If you are gluten-free, go ahead and use a 1-to-1 flour replacement like Bob's Red Mill. I'm gonna add a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. I'm using Redmond's real salt. This is a 1/4 cup of cold salted butter, cubed up. I'm going to put in here. And I am going to just pulse this a few times to see how this works. Okay, that did pretty well. Now I'm gonna add in the 8 ounces of sharp white cheddar cheese that I shredded. Put this back on, pulse it a couple more times. Just until everything is all incorporated and mixed well together. Then we just need 2 tablespoons of milk. Gonna add that here. And we're gonna give it another pulse. Okay, so it's gonna look really crumbly. And it's gonna look like it's not gonna come together, but when you squeeze it between, you're gonna focus on my hand. Thank you. When you squeeze it there between your fingers, it comes together. So that's what you're looking for. Now I'm just gonna pour this out here. And we're gonna roll this super, super thin, like paper thin. These are gonna puff up a lot when they bake, and they're not gonna get crispy unless they're thin. Okay, I have it so thin that it's nearly translucent in spots. I'm just going to make a nice square or rectangle here just for some nice clean edges, and then I'm gonna grab my kids and they can roll out the rest of them here. I'm just using a pizza cutter now, and I'm going to cut these into about 1-inch squares.
I got a little chair, Mom.
Okay, you gonna help me?
Okay.
Whoa, that was a fast one. All right, now we're gonna put them on a parchment lined cookie sheet, and I have my oven preheating to 325 degrees. Okay, now I'm just gonna take the base here of a skewer, and I'm gonna just poke a hole in the center of these, yeah.
Why?
Well, it makes them look like a Cheez-It, and it helps them from not puffing up too much. Oven's at 325. We're gonna bake these for about 15 minutes, but you want the edges to just be slightly golden brown.
15, wait, 21. Can I try another one? Which one?
Do they taste good? Do they taste like the real thing? Would you eat a whole bunch of them?
No, I only ate like 2.
No, I said, would you eat a whole bunch of them?
I would eat like all of them, a whole tray.
A whole tray of them? For the second snack recipe I'm sharing, we're gonna do some Ritz peanut butter sandwiches. So we have to make the Ritz cracker. So I have 1.5 cups all-purpose flour. I'm gonna use my blender again here, but I need, where do I have the blade? Okay, blade, and 1.5 cups all-purpose flour. 2.5 teaspoons of baking powder. I need 2 teaspoons of sugar. I'm gonna use some raw organic cane sugar. And finally, 1 teaspoon of salt. Quickly pulse this together. Okay, 6 tablespoons of cold salted butter going in. Pulse that. 1/2 cup of cold water. I'm just gonna add it slowly. And pulse. Get this dough out of here. I'm just going to, whoops, sorry, that was loud. I'm going to shape this into a ball, and this is gonna rest in the fridge for about an hour, and we're gonna work on something else in the meantime. All right, next recipe here. You can see my face for a moment. We're gonna start on another recipe that also needs some time to sit, and then we'll actually do a recipe I can finish all the way through right away. So I'm gonna make some baked potato chips. Much better for you than we can get at the store. We can avoid seed oils. We're just gonna use a little bit of olive oil, and we're gonna bake them in the oven. So there's no frying involved, and they're really yummy. So I'm gonna use a mandolin slicer to try and get these as thin as possible, to the point of where I'm comfortable holding it, because these things quite honestly terrify me, and then I'll probably finish it up with a knife. All right, slices go in here. I'm going to fill this with water. I'm gonna soak them for about 30 minutes. This is gonna help remove all the excess starch. This next recipe is very simple, super quick to throw together, and you can make a ton of variations on it. I've shared it before. We're gonna make some granola bars. Today though, I'm adding in some white chocolate chips and some dried cranberries. I thought it would go really well with almond butter, and I thought I had almond butter, but I don't. So I'm gonna use peanut butter, but I thought those 3 would go really well together. So for the glue, you can use any sort of nut butter or seed butter. Like I said, I'm using peanut butter, so I have 1 cup of that. I'm gonna add a 3/4 cup of maple syrup. I haven't tried this with honey, but I'm sure that would be fine. That goes in here. We need some coconut oil. and some vanilla. About a 1/3 cup of coconut oil. I'm just gonna eyeball that one. Sure, we'll go with that. And then vanilla, about a teaspoon. Now this is gonna go over to the stovetop just on low heat. I don't need it to be overly hot or anything. In fact, I don't want it to be because it's gonna melt my chocolate chips here. So I just want it to warm up enough so that everything comes together and forms one liquid. So while we wait for that, let's get everything else together. I'm using some organic oats here, and I need a measurer. I need 2½ cups of oats. Now comes your add-ins. So about 2 cups of whatever you would like, you can throw in. So I've got, this is probably a 1/2 cup of white chocolate chips, and I have a 1/2 cup of the dried cranberries going in. I'm gonna add some raisins to this, probably another 1/2 cup just to bulk it up a bit since I didn't have a whole lot of those other 2 ingredients. And I was thinking about adding some nuts, but then I decided not to. I'm not so sure my kids would love that, but I thought walnuts would taste good in this. Again, you can totally customize this to however you want it. Now, my friend Heather got me on this Chinese 5-spice kick. It's just really interesting. I think you can get it pretty much anywhere, but I know I always see it at Costco. So I don't actually know what the blend is in here, but it's spiced and sweet. I definitely smell like nutmeg and maybe allspice. I'm gonna do a 1/2 teaspoon or so in here. But if you don't have that, or if you don't like it, then you could add a little bit of cinnamon, maybe a 1/2 teaspoon of that, and a pinch of nutmeg, or you could just totally leave that out. You could throw some more vanilla into the other mixture, really just whatever you like. So here's what the mixture looks like here. And I have a peanut butter mixture. I'm just going to pour this all in here. And just pour it into the pan. I'm gonna put this in the fridge for a little while just till it all sets up and glues together. And then I'll take it out of the pan and cut them up. All right, we are back onto these Ritz peanut butter cracker sandwiches. So this has been in the fridge now for close to an hour. And I'm gonna get a little bit of flour and we're gonna roll this out. Not quite as thin this time. So I went searching all over my house for some sort of circular cutter. I was hoping to find something with fluted edges, just like a Ritz cracker, but no luck. This, I believe, is the insert to my teapot for the herbs, but it's a decent sized circle, so we're just gonna use it. If you have something smaller, you could make like those mini, I almost said Reese's, mini Ritz peanut butter sandwiches. What were they called? Like Ritz Bits or something? I don't know, something like that. It's been a long time since I have purchased anything like that from the store. Brush the tops with some egg wash. These will bake at 350 for about 15 minutes. Here are the Ritz crackers all finished up. They look awesome. So I'm just gonna spread some peanut butter in between. Now, to make it more authentic, you'd wanna add a little bit of powdered sugar to sweeten the peanut butter ever so slightly. I don't really wanna do that, so I just have some peanut butter here. It's in a bowl because I had to mix it up, the oil separated. There you go. Homemade peanut butter Ritz cracker sandwich. And here's a look at the inside. Nice and flaky. After the potatoes for the potato chips had a chance to soak for 30 minutes, I rinsed them off, patted them dry, and tossed them in a bowl with some olive oil and salt, about 2 to 3 tablespoons of oil. It just really depends on how many potato chips you're working with, but you want them to be fairly coated without them drowning in the oil. Then they get laid out in a single layer on a parchment-lined baking sheet, and they go into a 400-degree oven for about 15 to 30 minutes. It really just depends on how thick your slices are. So you want to keep an eye on them, but they'll start to brown up, and you can always take one out and see how crispy it is. Up next, we have some homemade fruit snacks, or little fruit gummies. I'm going to make some strawberry ones because I have a whole bunch of strawberries in the freezer. To start, you need 28 grams of gelatin. I use grass-fed bovine gelatin and 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. You can use fresh or bottled. You're going to mix those together. Then I'm going to blend up my fruit. Like I said, I'm using strawberries. You need 1 cup blended. You're going to take that and you're going to combine it with 3 tablespoons of honey. This goes over to the stove top. You're going to heat it up to 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Once you have achieved that temperature, you can add in the gelatin and lemon juice mixture. Then you're just going to continue melting this down until it's all well combined. Then you can just take it over to whatever little molds you have. I purchased these off of Amazon. They're little fruit molds, and they came with these little droppers, perfect for the kids to get involved. These then go into the fridge for at least a couple of hours. Sometimes I just let them go overnight, and then you have homemade fruit snacks. My kids love these. You can make a bunch of different flavors. I have done apple, grape, you can do pear or peach, raspberry. The only ones I would be careful of would be the fruits with higher acidity, like orange, lemon, pineapple, kiwi, and mango. Because of that high acidity, they're gonna kind of work against the gelatin, preventing it from setting up. So you would have to heat that to a certain temperature. I believe it's 176 degrees, and you need to keep it there for 8 minutes. That will deactivate the enzyme in the fruit that will prevent the gelatin from setting. Now that is just the fruit mixture before you add in the gelatin mixture. You'd want to heat the fruit up for 8 minutes and then allow that temp to drop and then add in your gelatin. Now we're going to make some fruit leather roll-ups. I have a whole bunch of fruit in the freezer. Like I said, I love using it up this way. I had some raspberries pureed and I had already removed the seeds, so perfect way to use these. I have about 3 cups in this bowl. I'm going to add about 1/2 cup to 3/4 cup of honey. Really just depends on how tart the fruit is you are working with. And then I'm going to add about 3 tablespoons of lemon juice. Sometimes I do add vanilla. I added about a teaspoon here, but that is totally up to you if you want that flavor in there or not. Then this goes onto a parchment-lined cookie sheet. You don't want it any more than about 1/4 inch thick. Make sure it is spread evenly. And then you're going to set it in your oven at the lowest temp possible. On my oven, that is 200 degrees. This took about 6 to 7 hours until it was set and no longer tacky. You do want to keep an eye on it though. You want to make sure it doesn't get to the point of where it just becomes brittle and cracks. I cut these into strips, roll them up, stick them into a mason jar, and they will sit out on the counter for up to a week. Muffins. Muffins are a big snack around here. I make them every week or every other week. It's a great way to use up some fruit I have frozen from the garden or other random ingredients in my fridge, some produce that I picked up that just needs to get used up. So I'm always making muffins. The recipe I'm sharing right now is a protein muffin recipe. It has really clean ingredients. There's only a few ingredients in it, and we all love them. Super quick to throw together. All you need is some flour. I am gonna make these gluten and dairy free so I can enjoy them as well. So I have some 1-to-1 gluten-free baking flour. We need some baking powder, some peanut butter. I'm using the organic stuff from Costco, some salt, vanilla. You'll need some protein powder. This is a vegan protein powder I found from Just Ingredients, dairy free, so that's awesome. There's not a whole lot of really good ones on the market. These have clean ingredients, organic, and it actually tastes good, so that's awesome. You're gonna need some chocolate chips. These are dairy free ones, and some unsweetened applesauce. This has a little bit of sugar in it, stuff I canned. So this recipe is 2 scoops of vanilla protein powder, whichever one you decide to use. That comes out to about 65 grams of powder. You need 1 teaspoon of baking powder, a 1/2 cup of almond flour. I used the 1-to-1 gluten-free mix from Bob's Red Mill. A 1/2 cup of peanut butter or other nut butter if you prefer, 1 cup of unsweetened applesauce, and a 1/2 cup of chocolate chips. There we go, 350 degrees for about 10 minutes. Here are the muffins all finished. I'll slice one open so you can see what it looks like on the inside. Here it is. It's a bit denser, but very moist, super yummy, and lots of protein for you. The last recipe I'm going to share is homemade marshmallows. I've shared before, but I thought they deserved a spot in this snack video because they're so yummy and they're good for your gut, which is awesome. So we heat up a 3/4 cup of water, 3/4 cup of maple syrup, a teaspoon of vanilla, and a pinch of salt. Just so everything gets well combined, we don't need to bring it to a boil, just warm. Then we're going to combine a 1/2 cup of water and a 1/4 cup of grass-fed gelatin in a stand mixer. Allow that to bloom for a few minutes. After the gelatin has bloomed, I'm going to put on my whisk attachment, and we're going to bring over our maple syrup mixture and slowly pour that in. Make sure you have it on a low speed as well. Then I'm going to turn this up to a medium speed, and I'm going to allow this to whip for about 8 to 10 minutes. You'll see here the progression of how this changes. It's going to go to this creamy color, kind of foamy, and then it is going to change to this, a bit stiffer. You don't necessarily want stiff peaks, but that rope that is dripping off there, you want it to kind of hold its shape on top of the rest of the mixture. That is the perfect consistency. Now you have to work really fast. It sets up very quick. You want to have a parchment lined cookie sheet ready. You're going to pour that on top. Sometimes all you have time for is just to quickly tap the cookie tray on a table to try and get it to smooth out. If you wait too long, you're going to end up with a sticky, rough mess. So make sure you don't over whip and you work quickly. Then I put these into the fridge for about an hour until they set up. They're ready to cut, and you can toss them in some powdered sugar or in some arrowroot powder, and that'll just help prevent them from sticking together. Perfect as a snack on their own or in some hot chocolate like I have here, and I can include my homemade hot chocolate concentrate recipe in the description for you as well. All right, friend, thank you for hanging out with me today in the kitchen as we made 8 snacks from scratch. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments. Drop me an emoji or just let me know how you are doing. I love hearing from you. Go ahead and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. I appreciate you all so much. You have a blessed week, and I will see you next time. Take care.